Shalom, it's Rabbi David Barron of Temple of the Arts here at our beautiful home, the Saban Theater in Beverly Hills, bringing you my Torah talk. Before I begin, I'm really excited. We've got some special announcements that will be coming your way in the next couple of weeks. And they're major announcements for the synagogue, and they include the resumption of our live Shabbat services, concerts, lectures, and programs as this dreaded pandemic begins to recede. And more of us are resuming normal lives, the lives that we all hunger for and deserve. And we've been praying really hard for that, and we look forward to praying together. And that actually ties into this week's Torah reading, which is the portion of Tetzaveh. It contains many of the laws that relate to the building of the portable sanctuary that the Israelites wandered with as they wandered through the wilderness for 40 years. And all of the details related to the components and the building of the Mishkan are contained in today's and other Torah portions. But one of the really interesting practices that I want to dwell on for a moment, because it relates to us and to how we pray, is the concept of incense, ketoret, K-T-R-T. Ketoret is the Hebrew word for incense. Many of us are familiar with incense in other faiths, but in Judaism, on Saturday night, when we take leave and say farewell to Shabbat, we inhale the fragrant spices. And that wonderful experience of inhaling fragrant spices is one that one of my colleagues said shouldn't be reserved for saying farewell to Shabbat. He instituted a practice of inhaling the fragrant spices on Friday night. And then when he takes leave of Shabbat on Saturday night, he remembers what he's taking leave of. But the concept is inhaling something fragrant. Look, an entire industry, the perfume industry, is built around the pleasing nature of fragrances. But also we know that a new industry that's cropped up or come to the forefront in the last few years, aromatherapy, relates to how our moods can shift and change when we inhale a fragrant aroma. And we know that it goes right into the nerves in the nose and to the brain. I don't know if you've experienced this, I have, that sometimes a certain fragrance, a certain smell, will take me back to a different place. It's like my mind shifts there immediately. Have you ever had that experience where you've walked into an apartment building down the hall and you smell the fragrance of homemade chicken soup and it takes you back to grandma's house? Or in my case, an experience I had not too long ago, I walked into an old building in South Florida and it had that musty smell. And it kind of reminded me of an inexpensive hotel that my parents stayed in when my brother and I were 8 and 9 years old. And it took me right back to those moments. Imagine how powerful a fragrance can be. And so the idea of immersing yourself, total immersion in the prayer experience, is very important and powerful opportunity that we should never lose sight of. So the Hebrew word ketoret, or fragrance, has meaning on many different levels. And one of the rabbinical commentaries is if you look at each of the letters of the word, it tells you how you should pray. And the K stands for something really important. K for kavanah, intent or purpose. One prayer said with meaning and purpose and intent is more important than 100 prayers that you rush through without giving a second thought to their meaning. I tell many women when they light the Shabbat candles, the moment before they recite the blessing, when they've brought their hands to their eyes and close their eyes and meditate, that's a powerful moment to set the Sabbath mood for them and a sense of peacefulness for their home environment. So we have the K, now the T. The T stands for tahara, purity. There are so few times in life that we do things without an agenda, without an expectation. And praying should be one of those moments. God isn't some bellhop who we're ringing the bell to summon when we need God. God is somebody we approach as a source or a force in the universe that helps bring us to a higher level of consciousness. And so the purity of the prayer, said without agenda, without expectation, is one of those rare moments where we can infuse this prayer with a powerful sense of who we are and where we're standing in that moment. The other elements of the word ketoret as well, the T at the end of the word, stands for tikva, or hope. Hope in a future. Many of us have been clinging on to that hope that we'll get through this pandemic, Even though some of us have lost loved ones and dear friends, some of us have dealt with this illness in a more severe way, we've always held on to the hope. In fact, the national anthem of the state of Israel is the Hatikva, the hope of the Jewish people to return to their homeland after 2,000 years of exile. And that hope is a powerful force in our lives. And when we recite a prayer with purity of intent, with no expectation, and with hope, it takes on a whole nother dimension. I hope that's how we characterize our prayers, and it's a lesson we can take from this week's Torah reading. And I wish you and your loved ones, and look forward to seeing you as I wish you Shabbat Shalom.